Week 21 Day 1. Scion child, descendant sense as the scion of a family of wealthy bankers. Rothschild never had to face the vicissitudes difficulties of life since scion noun see literary a young member of a rich and famous family. He's the scion of a very wealthy newspaper publishing family. Indoctrinate to teach certain principles sense in order to indoctrinate the captive. His jailers repeatedly reviled scolded capitalism, while praising communism sense indoctrinate verb t disapproving, to repeat an idea or belief frequently to someone, in order to persuade them to accept it. Some parents were critical of attempts to indoctrinate children in green ideology. They have been indoctrinated by television, to believe that violence is normal. Indoctrination noun you disapproving religious political ideological indoctrination opulence wealth, riches sense it was not until the wreckers began to dismantle the old edifice, that they discovered its real opulence sense opulent adjective expensive and luxurious, an opulent lifestyle an opulent hotel opulence noun you opulently adverb obsequious seeking favor, fawning sense Uriah Heep's obsequious manner nettled all but the most gullible sense obsequious adjective formal disapproving no too eager to praise or obey someone, she is almost embarrassingly obsequious to anyone in authority fulsome excessive, insincere sense the actress received fulsome compliments from her friends but trenchant incisive criticism from the reviewers. Fulsome adjective expressing a lot of admiration or praise for someone, often too much, in a way that does not sound sincere. Her new book has received fulsome praise from the critics. Our guests were fulsome in their compliments about the food fulsomely adverb he thanked her fulsomely for her help. Fulsomeness noun two strings to one's bow two means of achieving one's aim sense the salesman had two strings to his bow. If a phone call didn't get results, he would appear in person. Locked in an ivory edifice Prince Siddhartha Gautama was the scion of a family of warrior kings in northern India. He was being indoctrinated for the time when he would assume his father's throne. Growing up in an atmosphere of opulence, the young prince was constantly shielded from the cruel realities of the world. An army of obsequious servants and tutors catered to his every desire, providing Siddhartha with instruction in riding, fencing, dancing, and painting while lavishing fulsome praise upon him. It wasn't until the prince was 30 that he took the first step that led to his becoming the Buddha, one of the world's greatest spiritual leaders. Week 21 Day 2. Lush luxurious, elaborate sense the lush stage setting drew applause from the theater buffs fans. Sense lush plants adjective a lush area has a lot of green, healthy plants, grass and trees. Lush green valleys lushness noun you sense lush luxurious adjective of places, furniture, decoration, etc. Expensive and luxurious, a lush carpet lushly adverb lushness noun you sense lush person noun see slang a person who regularly drinks too much alcohol, she's a bit of a lush by all accounts. Destitution extreme poverty sense as the traveler followed the tortuous path up the Kentucky mountain, he was sickened by the destitution which he saw. Destitution noun uncount destitution is the state of having no money or possessions. Ponder to consider carefully sense in the hospital, the alcoholic had time to ponder over the need to be abstemious moderate eat and drink. Sense ponder verb I or t formal to think carefully about something, especially for a noticeable length of time. She sat back for a minute to ponder her next move in the game. Plus question word journalists pondered why the leading goal scorer of the World Cup had not scored all season. Supplication earnest prayer sense through supplication, the fraternity had hoped to end the strife among the members sense supplicant noun see formal a person who asks a god or someone who is in a position of power for something in an anxious way that shows that they do not think of themselves as very important. Supplication noun you formal inside the temple, worshippers were kneeling in supplication. Decadence decay sense rumors of Rome's decadence were rife popular among the barbarian tribes sense decadence noun you low moral standards and behavior, Western decadence decadent adjective a decadent society the decadent court surrounding the king humorous champagne and chocolates for breakfast how decadent. On tender hooks in a state of anxiety cloth used to be stretched or tendered, on hook sense the indicted clerk was kept on tender hooks by the district attorney. Siddhartha's eyes are open one day, Prince Siddhartha expressed the desire to leave his lush surroundings and ride out among his people. He was profoundly significantly shaken by the misery, destitution, disease, and excruciating extremely pain, with which his people were constantly afflicted. Retiring to his room to ponder over what he had seen, he remained there for several days, deaf to the supplication of those who pleaded with him to come forth. It seemed to Siddhartha that his life had been redolent with decadence, and he was determined to make amends. Week 21 Day 3. Penance Atonement of Sin. Since following a lengthy diatribe against mendacity lie, the priest imposed penance upon the sinner. Since penance noun C or U an act, which shows that you regret something that you have done, sometimes for religious reasons. As a penance, she said she would buy them all a box of chocolates. They are doing penance for their sins. Ascetic one how practices self-denial and devotion. Since the cave of the ascetic lacked the opulence and lush decoration of his former mansion. Since ascetic adjective avoiding physical pleasures, and living a simple life, often for religious reasons, they live a very ascetic life. Ascetic noun C. He lived as an ascetic. Ascetically averb asceticism noun U desultory occurring by chance. Disconnected. Since Larry's compositions proceed in a desultory manner despite the supplication earnest pray of his English teacher. Since desultory adjective formal without a clear plan or purpose and showing little effort or interest, she made a desultory attempt at conversation. He wandered around, clearing up in a desultory way. Desultorily averb formal disciple follower. Since Billy the Vampire is the only extant degrees disciple of Count Dracula. Since disciple noun C a person who believes in the ideas and principles of someone famous, and tries to live the way they do or did. An ardent disciple of the Prime Minister. The disciples plural noun the 12 men who followed Jesus Christ during his life. Metamorphosis change. Since in a remarkable metamorphosis, her lugubrious very sad mood changed to one of levity lightness disposition. Since metamorphose verb I formal to change into a completely different form or type, the awkward boy I knew had metamorphosed into a tall, confident man. Metamorphosis noun plural metamorphoses 1 See a complete change. Under the new editor, the magazine has undergone a metamorphosis. 2 You specialized the process by which the young form of insects and some animals, such as frogs, develops into the adult form. Since the fat is in the fire the mischief is done, matters have come to a crisis, trouble is about to start. We implored him to desist, but he said that the fat was already in the fire. The enlightened one Siddhartha exchanged his sumptuous garments for a monk's yellow robe, and went out into the world to do penance, for what he considered to be his previous life of sin. First he would cleanse himself by becoming an ascetic, then he would study Hindu wisdom, in order to be prepared to help his suffering people. After 6 years of desultory wandering, and attracting only a handful of disciples, Siddhartha came to a huge tree near the Indian city of Gaya. For 7 weeks he sat beneath its branches, seeking an answer for his personal torment. Finally, it is said, he underwent a metamorphosis, becoming the enlightened one the Buddha. Null Week 21 Day 4. Bona fide genuine. Since when we saw the hundreds of bona fide petitions, we realized that the number of people who supported the candidate was legion large number. Since bona fide adjective real, not false, make sure you are dealing with a bona fide company. Bona fides plural noun legal good or sincere intention salvation deliverance from ruin. Since the megalomaniac arrogant believed that he alone had the answer to mankind's worldly salvation. Since salvation noun 1s or u a way of being saved from danger, loss or harm, after the diagnosis, getting to know Mary was his salvation. A marriage beyond salvation to you in the Christian religion, salvation of a person or their spirit is the state of being saved from evil and its effects by the death of Jesus Christ on a cross. Their gospel message is one of personal salvation. Materialism attention to worldly thing and neglect of spiritual needs. Since disciples followers of materialism may know the price of everything but the value of nothing. Since materialism money noun you the belief that having money and possessions is the most important thing in life, so have we become a self-centered society, preoccupied with materialism. Materialist noun see materialistic adjective. Since materialism physical noun you specialize the belief that only physical matter exists, and the spiritual world does not. Materialist noun see specialized null materialist adjective specialized nurture to nourish, support sense. In order to nurture goodwill, the management will do anything to accommodate its guests' special needs. Sense nurture. Verb T formal 1 to take care of, feed and protect someone or something, especially young children or plants, and help them to develop. She wants to stay at home and nurture her children. A carefully nurtured garden. 2 to help a plant or a person to develop and be successful. As a record company director, his job is to nurture young talent. 3 to have a particular emotion, plan or idea for a long time. Winifred nurtured ambitions for her daughter to be a surgeon. Nurture now knew the way in which children are treated as they are growing, especially as compared with the characteristics they are born with. Which do you believe has the strongest influence on how children develop, nature or nurture? Nirvana. Freedom from care and pain. Buddhist heaven sense. Rosalie found solace in the conviction that one day mankind would reach Shangri-La, utopia. Nirvana sense. Nirvana now knew one a high spiritual state of freedom from all suffering, which Buddhists believe can be achieved by removing all personal desires to a state of perfection. Like Caesar's wife above suspicion, the associates of public figures must not even be suspected of wrongdoing. The ancient Roman Julius Caesar is supposed to have said this when asked why he divorced his wife, Pompeia. Because she was suspected of some wrongdoing, he could not associate with her anymore. Since Mrs. Drake would have to be like Caesar's wife, so that no tinge of scandal would embarrass her husband, our new mayor. Love over hatred, goodness over evil. Buddha outlined the 3 paths that men might travel: worldly pleasure, self-torment, and the middle path. Only through the middle path could man achieve bona fide peace and salvation. One had to refuse materialism, keep his self-control, restrict speech, be open-minded, never lie or steal, reject selfish drives, nurture goodness, etc. Buddha continued to preach until the age of 80, spreading the philosophy that man has the power to shape his own destiny. Through good deeds and pure thoughts man may reach nirvana. Interestingly enough, the man who objected to traditional religious worship was to become idolized by millions throughout the world. Week 21 Day 5. History's most extraordinary person? In a celebrated essay about Joan of Arc, Mark Twain wrote movingly of her brief moment in the spotlight, 2 short years, in which she made an indelible mark on world history. At age 16 she was illiterate, had never strayed from her sleepy little village, knew nothing of military combat, or courts of law. But at age 17, in a complete metamorphosis, she was named Commander-in-Chief of the French army, vowing to restore her king to his throne. Joan attracted many fervent followers, and a disciple called her France's Salvation. After much gallantry in battle, this bona fide heroine was brought low by treachery at the French court and captured by the enemy. Joan defended herself brilliantly in a court trial, although she could neither read nor write. She was able to forecast future events with remarkable accuracy, correctly predicting her own martyrdom. Mark Twain understood how geniuses such as Napoleon, Edison, and Wagner could develop, but one could ponder the facts for a lifetime without being able to explain how this humble peasant girl could display the qualities of a mature statesman, a learned jurist, and a military wizard. He concluded, taking into account her origin, youth, sex, illiteracy, early environment, and the obstructing conditions under which she exploited her high gifts, and made her conquests in the field and before the courts, that tried her for her life, she is easily, and by far the most extraordinary person the human race has ever produced.